much for having me. Excited to be here and engage in this really important conversation. As you shared in the introduction, I've had the pleasure of leading DEI as a CDO in a number of organizations. I've consulted with dozens more CDOs and organizations overall in this space. And I will tell you that before we even get to the strategy, what I think is really important and what I start with the people that I work with, and that I think will hopefully be helpful for those of you attending is, what is your philosophy and your approach to DEI? Because I think oftentimes people just jump in to a list of strategies and tactics and don't take a step back and say, like, how are we thinking about this work? And what I found and what I share is I call it the 3 I's. The 3 I's that really set the foundation for your vision for how you will execute whatever DEI strategies you come up with. And the 3 I's are intention, integration, and investment. So when we talk about intention, you have to be intentional about making DEI a priority in your organization. Quite frankly, that's why we haven't seen the progress that many organizations have tried to achieve over time. And I'll even say since George Floyd was murdered and the 2 years that have passed since, it's also why we haven't seen the change that I thought many had hoped would happen. Now, granted, there's been some change, but I wouldn't say the pace of change has been dramatically different. And I think it's because organizations aren't making DEI a priority and being intentional about it. So you have to basically make it a stated priority from the top down. You have to get leaders engaged in this work. And I can say, for example, I intend to lose weight, but if I don't change my eating habits and work out, I'm not going to lose weight. So that's what's happened. Is companies will make these statements. We care about DEI, we're going to drive change, and then they don't do anything differently. So be intentional and then follow that up with actions that you're going to take to make that intention come true. The second is integration. So although many companies have someone leading DEI, or maybe it's not someone's full-time job, but it's perhaps someone that's doing it in addition to their day job. And that to me is, it's important to have someone kind of be the focal point, but DEI has to be owned by everyone. It has to be a priority for everyone and everyone's responsibility. So I use the analogy of companies have a CFO or a chief financial officer. That person sets the strategy, the financial philosophy that the company then follows, the policies, practices, et cetera. But then everyone in the company is expected to be a good financial steward. You can't go and blow money. You have to follow the time, the traveling protocols, et cetera, whatever it is. That is the same way I want people to view diversity, equity, and inclusion. You have a CDO or you have a leader that's setting the vision and the strategy for the company, but then everyone is responsible for making that vision come to life. And so DEI should have a mindset around, how do we integrate this into how we operate so it's just what we do? So it's less about DEI recruiting strategies, but it's about, how do we recruit? It's less about development and learning, and it's about, how do we develop our talent and what is our learning strategies? It's less about DEI in the community, and it's like, how do we engage the people in our community? How do we build our business that grows and attracts people from all walks of life? So the integration piece is key, because if you take a mindset around integration, DEI will never be siloed off on its own, trying to drive change. And then the last one is the investment angle. And this is one where it's a huge opportunity for organizations. It is well known that DEI does not get funded in the way that it should. In fact, about half of CDOs, and I was actually shocked it's not more than that, say that a lack of investment, and that investment being both budget and resources, human resources to help drive the work, is what's actually standing in the way of making progress, right? And so I think organizations have to put their money where their mouth is. And if they really believe and say this work is important and it's a business imperative, then fund it and invest in it appropriately to drive change.